ELA-RI stands for Reading Information Assessment 3. Before we begin to read the text, you would always want to read the title first. The title is What Was the Great Depression? Then you're going to scroll down to the questions. You want to read for a meaning, for a purpose. Question number 1. What are the two main ideas about the article? Number 2. Based on the text, what are the two details that support the main ideas? Number 3. How did President Franklin D. Roosevelt help to improve the struggling economy? Number 4. Which detail from the text best supports the answer to question 2? Number 5. Read the sentence from paragraph 1. By the end of the 1920s, warehouses were filled with merchandise that no one bought. What does the word merchandise mean as it is used in this sentence? 6. What detail from paragraph 1 best supports the answer to question 1? Number 7. The author uses a word that means a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. Underline a word in the paragraph below that best represents that idea. Number 8. What is the best meaning of the phrase hard times in paragraph 7 of What Was the Great Depression? Number 9. Which sentence from the article helps the reader determine the meaning of the phrase hard times as it is used in paragraph 7? Number 10. Read the sentence from paragraph 1. To meet the demand, factories rush to make even more products. Which dictionary entry best defines demand? Number 11. Explain how the author described the Great Depression and provide evidence from the text to support your answer. This question is 6 points. 2 points for your focus. Your answer does exactly what the prompt asks you to do. 2 points for evidence. Your answer is supported with details, plenty of details from the text. Organization. Your ideas are clear and in logical order. Now let's go back to the text and read the text. What Was the Great Depression by Fran Severs. When World War I officially ended in 1919, Americans were tired of the war and ready for good times. In the early 1920s, there were plenty of jobs in the United States. People earned good incomes. Businesses grew quickly. During the Roaring 20s, American consumers, which are people who buy things, enjoyed spending money. Those who could not afford the most expensive items borrowed money so they could buy now, pay later. They bought new homes. They purchased cars, washing machines, and other large items. They also bought smaller goods, such as toasters and irons. To meet the demand, which means consumers' willingness and ability to consume a given good, factories rushed to make even more products. But companies made too many goods, and people stopped buying them. By the end of the 1920s, warehouses were filled up with merchandise that no one bought. Factory production slowed down. Many factory workers lost their jobs. During the 1920s, many Americans grew wealthier. They spent their money on new inventions such as the electric refrigerator shown in this photograph right here. At the same time, many Americans decided to invest, which means spend money with the expectation of achieving a profit in the stock market. They hoped to get rich quickly. The stock market is a place where shares of stock in different companies are bought and sold. People hope to make a high return by buying stock at a low price and selling it at a higher price. From June through September 1929, the prices of stocks soared. They rised. Then prices began to dip slightly. nervous investors began selling millions of stock shares for less than the purchase price, losing billions of dollars. On October 31st, 1929, the stock market crashed when stock prices dropped sharply. The crash caused panic. People took their money out of the banks and banks were forced to close. More than 600 banks failed in 1929. The stock market crash led to a financial crisis called the Great Depression. A depression is a serious slowdown in the economy that causes people to lose their jobs and businesses to fail. At the start of the Great Depression, about 1.5 million Americans were out of work. By 1933, about 13 million Americans had lost their jobs. To earn money, jobless people sold apples, pencils, and other items on the streets. They shined shoes or washed and mended, means repaired, clothing for others. They sold their belongings, their personal belongings. Some were forced to beg for money. Without any income, money received from work, thousands of jobless Americans lost their homes because they did not have the money to pay rent. If they had borrowed money to buy a house, they could not buy their loans. They could not pay their loans. So the money took their homes. So the bank took their loans. So the bank took their homes. People were forced to live with friends or family members. If necessary, they stayed in churches or rooming houses. Sometimes the homeless built shacks, small shelter, from old crates and scrap metal. These temporary homes lacked electricity or running water. As you can see in this picture right here, during the Great Depression, many Americans lost not only their jobs, but also their homes. For shelter, these men and women built shacks on the outskirts of cities. Right here. These are the shacks. In some cities, long lines of people waiting for food were a common sight during the Great Depression. Charities gave bread and soup to people who could not pay to feed themselves. About 2 million homeless men, women, and children drifted and moved slowly around the country. They broke the law by hitching free rides on trains. They rode from place to place looking for work, shelter, and food. Millions stood in lines for free bread or soup that charity groups provided. In 1931, charity groups in New York City served about 85,000 free meals every day. Under President Franklin D. Roosevelt, America's economy slowly improved. Roosevelt's plan to fix the nation's money problems was called the New Deal. To improve the situation, the government passed laws that changed banking systems, provided the needy with aid, and created new jobs. In 1933, about 25% of Americans were jobless. By 1937, the unemployment percentage of unemployed workers rate had fallen to about 14%. Unfortunately, nearly 8 million Americans still did not have jobs. The Great Depression lasted for more than 10 years. In 1941, the United States entered World War II. Factories started making war supplies, such as airplanes, tanks, and ships. As the need for war supplies increased, businesses hired more and more people. America's hard times finally came to an end. Number 1. What are the two main ideas about the article? A. At the start of the Great Depression, about 1.5 million Americans were out of work. B. The Great Depression and how it affected the lives of many people. C. People took their money out of banks and banks were forced to close. D. The Great Depression increased workers' salaries and helped build the economy. E. How Roosevelt's New Deal helped the country's economy recover. Number 2. Based on the text, what are the two details that support the main ideas? A. When World War I officially ended in 1919, Americans were tired of the war and ready for good times. B. Charities gave bread and soup to people who could not pay to feed themselves. C. Factories making more goods than people bought, workers losing jobs, and stock market crash. D. Changing banking systems providing aid and creating new jobs. E. At the same time, many Americans decided to invest money in the stock market. 3. How did President Franklin D. Roosevelt help to improve the struggling economy? A. President Roosevelt in New York City served about 85,000 free meals every day. B. President Roosevelt began selling millions of stock shares for less than the purchase price, losing billions of dollars. C. President Roosevelt caused the Great Depression by buying stock at a low price and selling it at a higher price. D. President Roosevelt came up with a plan called the New Deal. Number 4. Which detail from the text best supports the answer to question number 2? This is supposed to be question number 3. My bad. A. Purchase cars, washing machines, and other large items. B. Changing banking systems, provided the needy with aid and created new jobs. C. To earn money, jobless people sold apples, pencils, and other items on the streets. D. Thousands of jobless Americans lost their homes because they did not have the money to pay rent. Number 5. Read the sentence from paragraph 1. By the end of the 1920s, warehouses were filled with the merchandise that no one bought. What does the word merchandise mean as it is used in the sentence? Goods. B. Large items. C. Shares of stock. D. Jobs. Number 6. Which detail from the paragraph 1 best supports the answer to question 5? A. That no one bought. B. Even more products. C. Factory production slowed. D. Lost their jobs. Number 7. The author uses a word that means a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. Underline a word in the paragraph below that best represents that idea. The stock market crash led to a financial crisis called the Great Depression. A depression is a serious slowdown in the economy that causes people to lose their jobs and businesses to fail. At the start of the Great Depression, about 1.5 million Americans were out of work. By 1933, about 13 million Americans had lost their jobs. To earn money, jobless people sold apples, pencils, and other items on the streets. They shined shoes or washed and mended clothing for others. They sold their personal belongings. Some were forced to beg for money. 8. What was the best meaning of the phrase hard times in paragraph 7 of What Was the Great Depression? A. A period of great difficulty. B. A time when farmers couldn't grow crops. C. A time when jobs paid low wages. D. A period of mild sadness. 9. Which sentence from the article helps the reader determine the meaning of the phrase hard times as it is used in paragraph 7? A. When World War I officially ended in 1919, Americans were tired of war and ready for good times. B. From June through September 1929, the prices of stocks soared. C. About 2 million homeless men, women, and children drifted around the country. D. Roosevelt's plan to fix the nation's money problems was called the New Deal. Read the sentence from paragraph 1. To meet the demand, factories rushed to make even more products. Which dictionary entry best defines demand? A. Forceful statement. B. Wish. C. Strong need. D. Question. Number 11. Explain how the author described the Great Depression and provide evidence from the text to support your answer.